What's the reason that you got into homesteading or thinking about getting into homesteading? I can only assume that you are interested in the whole homesteading thing because you're watching this video. The reason that we got into homesteading is so that we can provide better nutrition for myself, Michelle, our family as a whole, and the food that we're getting in restaurants and fast food places today are basically just nutrient void food, and they also are preserving that food with chemicals that don't exactly align with our body. Today, I'm going to be reading from this book, notes, not word for word, but we're going to highlight and go over. This book is a book written by Dr. Peter J.D. Adamo. I think that's how you say his name. And it's a popular book called Eat Right for Your Blood Type. And Michelle and I have been on this journey in the last year of trying to fine tune our diet so that we can be able to live a little healthier. I was reading through this book the other day, and it was highlighting things that weren't so good for me, foods to avoid, but it was also talking about foods that are highly beneficial to type O. So today's video is going to be based on the type O blood type, which is what my blood type is. Michelle's a type A. I don't know if I've already said that or not. So I want to do a little intro to the book. I want to read a little excerpt for you, and then we'll start talking about all the vegetables and foods that are highly beneficial and foods that you should avoid. Blood type analysis is a logical system. The information is simple to learn and easy to follow. By learning the principles of blood type analysis, you can tailor the optimal diet for yourself and your family members. You can pinpoint the foods that make you sick, contribute to weight gain, and lead to chronic diseases. Early on, I realized the blood type analysis offered a powerful means of interpreting individual variations in health and disease. Given the amount of available research data, it is surprising that the effects of blood type on your health have not received the measure of attention that they deserve. At first glance, the science of blood type may seem daunting, but I assure you it is simple and basic as a life itself. I will tell you about the ancient trial of the evolution of blood types, as riveted as the early human history, and demystifying the science of blood types to provide a clear and simple plan that you will be able to follow. I realize that this is probably a completely new idea for you. Few people ever even think about the implications of the blood type. Even though it is a powerful genetic force, you may be reluctant to wade into such unfamiliar territory. Even if the scientific arguments seem convincing, I ask you to do only 3 things. Talk to your physician before you begin, find out your blood type, if you don't already know it, and try the blood type diet for at least 2 weeks. Blood is life itself. It is the primal force that fuels the power and mystery of birth, the horrors of disease, war, and violent death. Entire civilizations are built on blood ties. Tribes, clans, monarchies depend on them. We cannot exist without blood. We cannot exist without blood, literally or figuratively. Blood is magical. Blood is mystical. Blood is alchemical. It appears without human history as a profound religious and cultural symbol. The blood of the lamb was placed as a mark of the hovels of the enslaved Jews of Egypt so that the angel death would pass over them. Moses is said to have turned the waters of Egypt into blood in his quest to free his people. The symbolic blood of Jesus Christ has been, for nearly 2,000 years, central to the most sacred rite of Christianity. The ascent of humans to the top of the food chain, evolution as type O, to its fullest expression. The change from hunter-gatherer to a more domesticated agrarian lifestyle, which is type A. The merging and migration of the races from the African homeland to Europe, Asia, and the Americas, development of type B. The modern intermingling of disparate groups, the arrival of type AB. Each type contains the genetic message of the ancestors' diets and behaviors, and though we're a long way away from early history, many of the traits still affect us. Knowing these predispositions help us to understand the logic of the blood type diets. Blood type O, the predominant blood type even today. O is for old. Your blood type plan lets you zero in on the health and nutrition information that corresponds to your exact biological profile. Armed with this new information, you can now make choices about your diet, exercise regimen, and general health that are based on the dynamic natural forces within your own body. So essentially, the blood type diet book is based on 16 food groups. Those 16 food groups are your meats and poultry, seafood, dairy and eggs, oils and fats, nuts and seeds, beans and legumes, cereals, which are your grains, breads and muffins, grains and pasta, vegetables, fruit, juices and fluids, spices, condiments, herbal teas, and miscellaneous beverages. Each of these groups divide foods into 3 categories: highly beneficial, neutral, and avoid. Highly beneficial is a food that acts like a medicine. Neutral is a food that just acts like a food. Avoid is a food that acts like a poison. There's a wide variety of foods in each diet, so don't worry about limitations. So basically, the O type is the hunter. They're a meat eater, they have a hardy digestive tract, intolerant to dietary and environmental adaptations, responds best to stress with intense physical activity, requires an efficient metabolism to stay lean and energetic. You are what you eat can take an ominous meaning when you're talking about a modern meat supply. Fortunately, organic and free-range meats are becoming more widely available. The success of type O diet depends on your use of lean, chemical-free meats, poultry, and fish. You will lose weight initially on the type O diet by restricting your consumption of grains, breads, legumes, beans. The leading factor in weight gain for type O is the gluten that is found in wheat germ and whole wheat products. It acts on your metabolism to create the exact opposite of the state of ketosis. Instead of keeping you lean and in a high energy state, the gluten lectins inhibit your insulin metabolism, interfering with your efficient use of calories for energy. Other factors contribute to weight gain in type O's. Certain beans, legumes, especially lentils and kidney beans, contain lectins that deposit in your muscle tissues, making them more alkaline and less charged for physical activity. A third factor in type O weight gain is related to thyroid regulation. Type O's have a tendency to have low levels of thyroid hormone. This condition, called hyperthyroidism, occurs because type O's often exhibit insufficient levels of iodine, a chemical element whose sole purpose is thyroid hormone production. The symptoms of hyperthyroid include weight gain, fluid retention, muscle loss, and fatigue. All right, the foods that encourage weight gain are wheat gluten, corn, kidney beans, navy beans, lentils, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and mustard greens. Foods that encourage your weight loss are kelp, seafood, iodized salt, liver, red meat, kale, spinach, and broccoli. It is preferable that you obtain your iodine from sources such as seafood and kelp, as sodium can contribute to high blood pressure and water retention. Our ancestors didn't feast on 16-ounce steaks. Meat was too precious and scarce for that. Try to consume no more than 6 ounces at any one meal. However, you must be careful to balance your meat proteins with the appropriate vegetables and fruits to avoid over-acidification, which can cause ulcers and irritation in the stomach lining. So, type O, they should be eating red meat, about about 4 to 6 ounce steaks, which are fairly small steaks, about the size of your fist. I know that whenever I go to a restaurant, I like a bigger steak, but that's not what we're supposed to be eating. And it says to eat red meat about 4 to 6 times in a week, which is pretty astounding that it would be that many times. Also, type O should really load up on fish. So if you live near a river, you have a pond on your homestead, think more about putting fish in your diet. And cold water fish are less susceptible to having mercury buildup. So you might want to stay away from all the panfish that are in the rivers and streams and are being contaminated by industry. But if you know that you have a fresh spring-fed stream that's feeding your pond, wherever you're getting your fish from, you're probably safe to eat your panfish. Also, a lot of homesteaders like to raise their own chicken. It says here that you can have poultry about 2 to 3 times a week. So less poultry than red meat. All right, now we're going to go down the category of highly beneficial meats. Highly beneficial would be your standard beef, buffalo, heart, lamb, liver, calf liver, sheep, veal, and venison. Those are your highly beneficial meats. Now, the meats that you should be avoiding if you're type O is quail, any kind of pork, and turtle. Guys, I know that bacon is the top of the list and fried pork chops is at the top of your list, but you may want to cut back on that. I am not saying don't eat this stuff. I'm just saying don't make it a main part of your diet. As I was saying earlier about seafood, it says here in the book that you can have seafood 3 to 5 times a week, which is pretty good because I like to eat a lot of shrimp and salmon and stuff like that. We generally have a shrimp and a fish meal at least once a week, both of those. Now, as far as fish, if you have access to fish on your homes, close to your homestead, we're here within 45 miles of the Gulf of Mexico, so we have access to ocean fish. Like today when I came home, I brought home cod, I brought home salmon. Cod is highly beneficial, whereas salmon is a neutral. Some of the other fish that are highly beneficial are all your bass fish, your halibut, perch, pike, red snapper, shad, sturgeon, swordfish, trout, and yellowtail. Those are all your highly beneficial fish. All right, so here's the unpopular category for fish, stuff that you should avoid: catfish. I hate to say it, but it made the list. Other things that you should be avoiding are barracuda, conch, frogs, herring, octopus, pollock, and squid. Those are on your avoid list. Now, moving on to dairy and eggs. Now, for the dairy and eggs category, there's nothing that is highly beneficial in that whole category. There are a few neutral, and they are butter, eggs, farmer cheese, feta, ghee, goat cheese, and mozzarella. Those are just foods. Those are not highly beneficial. They're not on the avoid list either. That was a small category. I figure I will go ahead and name them just to let you know. Now, there's a long list of avoids in the dairy and eggs category. They are American cheese, blue cheese, brie, buttermilk, cheddar, Colby, cottage cheese, cream cheese, basically all your cheeses. Quail eggs, goose eggs, Gouda, ghee, half and half, ice cream, kefir, milk, Monterey Jack, Parmesan, provolone, ricotta, sherbet, sour cream, string cheese, Swiss, whey, and all the yogurts. Those are on the avoid list. And I happen to know that whenever I eat a lot of dairy, like ice cream, it bloats me up. I start weight gain immediately. I feel lethargic for at least the next day or two. Milk really does affect me. So while we're at it, we're going to talk about the highly beneficial stuff, your oils. Flaxseed and olive oil are the only two on the highly beneficial list. What you should avoid, and now this list is a little bit longer, is your avocado oils, your coconut, your corn, peanut, and safe, and soy. Avoid those and do not ever cook with those. Those will harden your arteries. Stay away from those oils. Now, moving on to nuts and seeds. Highly beneficial nuts are flaxseed, pumpkin seed, walnuts. So your black walnuts and your English walnuts fall into those categories. So you should be eating nuts about 3 to 4 times a week. So relatively low amount of nuts in your diet. Nuts that you should avoid are your Brazil nuts, cashew, cashew butter, chestnuts, peanuts, peanut butter, pistachio, poppy seed, sunflower butter, and sunflower seed. Stay away from all of those. Now here's a category that I'm not really fond of because I actually do kind of like beans. The highly beneficial beans that you should be growing, well, I don't even know if you can even grow an Azuki bean. I think those grow kind of in the Himalayan mountain area. But that's highly beneficial, and black-eyed peas are highly beneficial to type O. So get out there and plant you a field full of those black-eyed peas and put those in your freezer along with your pink-eyed purple hull peas is what is popular here in the South. We like to eat a lot of that stuff. Beans and peas that you should avoid are kidney beans, lentils, navy beans, and whatever a copper bean is, I don't know. Make sure you're avoiding your kidney beans, navy beans, and lentils. All right, moving on to your cereals. Basically, this is your grains category. Type O's do not tolerate whole wheat products at all, and you should eliminate them completely from your diet. So essentially, there are no highly beneficial grains, but there is a list to avoid. Avoid barley and all corn, corn flakes, cream of wheat, cornmeal, grape nuts, grits. I like grits. And your 7-grain breads, your shredded wheat, and then anything that has wheat bran or wheat germ in it. Make sure you're avoiding all those cereals. And that's one of the areas I've got to work to cut out. I've got to work to cut cornbread out, cornmeal out, and any kind of bread essentially. So if you're a type O and you're struggling with weight gain, cut your breads, cut your grains. So type O has only one bread that is highly beneficial, and it's manna. I don't know that I've ever ate manna before, but it's basically just a flour and water. There's no yeast or any kind of other ingredients. Sounds kind of bland and boring. So I'm not really adding manna to my big list of things to try. So right along with grains is your pasta. There are no pastas that are highly beneficial to type O. There's another list to avoid. Any kind of durum wheat flour, gluten flour, white flour, whole flour, semolina, and couscous is also on that list. There is a tremendous number of vegetables available to type O's, and they form a critical component of your diet. Highly beneficial vegetables that you should be growing on your homestead are artichoke, Jerusalem and domestic, which is your globe artichokes, beet greens, broccoli, collard greens, dandelion greens, ginger, horseradish, kale, lettuces, kelp, kohlrabi, okra, and all of your onions are all on the highly beneficial list. Also on the highly beneficial list is cayenne peppers, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, seaweed, spinach, Swiss chard, and turnips. Things that you should avoid, this is items that you probably shouldn't be putting in your garden or growing less of anyway, are cauliflower, corn, cucumber, leeks, your mushrooms, black olives, mustard greens, pickles, all of your potatoes you should be avoiding if you're a type O. Rhubarb, spirulina, and yucca are all on the avoid list. Now let's move on to a category that I am a big fan of, the fruits category. There's a huge amount of fruits that are beneficial to O. All right, things that are really good for type O are bananas, blueberries, all your cherries, all of your figs. Type O people, go get you some figs. Guava, mango, all your plums, and all your prunes. Those are all highly beneficial. I've got 75 plants of figs in the ground, and I think everybody needs at least 75 varieties of figs in the ground. Things you should avoid as far as fruits: Asian pear, avocado, blackberries, cantaloupe, coconut, kiwi, melondews, oranges, plantain, and tangerines are all on the avoid list. We're growing a few of those. Now, moving on to juices and fruits. Juices that are highly beneficial are black cherry, guava, mango, pineapple, prune, spinach. Avoid oranges and tangerines, coconut, cucumber, aloe, and blackberry, like we previously said. Spices and sugars and seasonings. Highly beneficial category is curry, horseradish, kelp, cayenne pepper, and turmeric. Things that you should avoid: corn syrup, MSG, nutmeg, black and white pepper, all of those type of peppers, no matter what color it is, avoid those peppers. Anything that is sucrose base, maltodextrin base, white sugar, corn syrup, cornstarch, and carrageenan, and aspartame. Condiments, there are no good condiments. Just skip all your condiments. If you're a fan of ketchups and mustards and mayonnaises, now you need to be working to restrict that. All right, so some condiments that made the neutral category are your mustard, your sauce, and some of your salad dressings. All made the neutral, so if you have to have a condiment, choose something along those lines. Things that you should avoid are all your ketchups, all your pickles and relishes, mayonnaise, vinegar, and Worcestershire sauce. Makes sense to me. I don't like Worcestershire sauce, and there's a reason for it. It's because it's not good for me. Now let's talk a little bit about herbal teas. Herbal teas are a really good category. There's quite a bit that are highly beneficial, and it's probably going to be that way for most all your blood types. Highly beneficial herbal teas are anything with cayenne in it: chickweed, dandelion, ginger-based, hops, mulberry, rose hips, sarsaparillas, and slippery elm. Teas that you should avoid are echinacea, alfalfa, guarana, and St. John's wort. All right, so there are very few acceptable beverages for type O. Highly beneficial would be club soda, green teas, and seltzer water. That's about it for the highly beneficial. Drinks that you should avoid are beer, coffee, liquor, soda, and black tea. I'm sorry, people. It's just in the book. I didn't make up this list. All right, guys, so reading through this book, I come to realize some of the things that I need to be planting more of and less of. Hopefully, this kind of turned you on to some stuff that you need to be planting and some things that you need to be limiting. We planted 3 rows of potatoes this year. Looking at this book, we looked up, and Michelle and I both were kind of on the avoid list for potatoes. But I should have really ramped up our sweet potatoes. And we're working to stay away from corn. We didn't even plant any corn. Everything else that you didn't hear me mention in that book falls in the neutral category. So if you didn't hear me call it out, go ahead and plant it. It's a food. It just didn't. It's not highly beneficial, and it's not on the avoid list. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it informative. I'd advise you to go ahead and get a copy of this book, read through it. There's some really good information in here. Read through each blood type of family member that you have so that you know how to fine-tune your homestead, what animals you should be raising, what animals you probably shouldn't bother with that are on the avoid list. And I think you're going to not like some of the animals that are on the avoid list. So hopefully it'll help you dial in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow us along if this is your first time. Remember, keep growing, keep building, and always keep adventuring. Together, we're Farmington Famous. We'll see you next time.